Hello, this is Scott Crook and Pam Holloway again. We're back for the second part of the interview with Donald N. Crook, who is our father, talking about his experiences with his grandfather, Rupert Thomas Flitton. And today is Sunday, September 18th, 2022. And we are all in our homes talking. I'm in Centerville, Utah, from in my office downstairs. And Pam is in her home in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And Dad is in his home in West Haven, Utah. Okay, Pam, take it away.
Okay, last time we were talking about, like Scott said, we're talking about Grandpa Rupert Thomas Flitton. he was quite the character. And let's see. Where did he grow up?
He grew, well, as far as I know, in Layton, Utah. That's where he spent most of his youth.
And did he grow up on a farm?
You know, he never talked about it, so I'm not sure. I'm assuming that he did because, like I said last time, they pulled him out of school when he was like 3 years old, or I mean third grade, and so that he could help on the farm. So I'm assuming that they had, if they didn't own it, they were living on a farm.
Okay. So his education stopped at 3. At third grade. Yeah, at third grade.
At third grade,
formal education. But so his basically his education was street smarts.
Yeah. Like he never learned to read or write.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But he did learn how to write his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He took great pride in the fact that he could write his name. It took him a long time to write it.
Right.
Because he couldn't read or write, so it was just rote memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took him a little bit to write it.
So when he would go to the grocery store, when they moved to West Ogden, and he would walk down to the little corner store over the viaduct, did he always shop at the same place?
He always shopped at Richardson's, which was on the corner of C Avenue and 24th Street. Okay. Before you went onto the viaduct.
Oh, okay.
And it was on the corner. That's where he did all of his shopping. Everybody knew him there. He couldn't, like you said, he couldn't read. So if he could, he would pick up a can and look at it. And if he couldn't tell what it was, then he would hold it up so that the cashiers could see him. And he'd holler out. I can't remember what the name was that there was a name that he would always say, not ask so-and-so, what's this? And she would tell me what it was.
So he had ways around it.
Pardon?
He had ways around the fact that he couldn't read.
Oh, yeah. Well, and people were kind. I mean, they always helped him to get what he needed. Like I say, he didn't He did all of his grocery shopping at Richardson's.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I went by there, I don't remember what it was this last time. There for a while, it was a transmission repair shop.
Oh,
But it was no longer a repair shop. I don't remember what it was, but it's still there. The little hotel kitty corner across the street's still there. Everything down the hill from there, down in the rail yard, the edge of the rail yard, that used to be the stockyards. And we used to go down there all the time because he loved to go down there and sit at the auctions and watch them auction off whatever they were whatever they were selling at the time.
there you go.
And he'd sit down there. I'd go down with him, and he could sit there for hours and watch him sell whatever it was. He bought him a lamb there one time. I think he bought some pigs there once too, but that's all changed now. That's the stockyard's no longer there. I'm trying to remember what was down there now. I think there's some housing and stuff down there now, and
What's an ice skating rink at one time?
yeah, there was an ice skating rink, and I think that's still there. Now that Mom said that, I think that is still there.
Hmm.
But all the stockyards are gone.
Now, did he? Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Well, is the viaduct the way it is now? Was it like that then?
Yeah,
Too?
it hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
Other than the stairs that were halfway across may be gone now. When I drove across, I didn't see them this last time. So they may have been taken down. The only reason why they were there was because it took you down to the rail yard, and there was buildings down there, the blacksmith shop and some the turntable for the train engines, some other buildings down there. Those are all gone now, and so there's no reason for that stairway to be there. So they may have taken it out. But other than that, it's exactly the same.
Did
And when we were talking last time, I said that Grandpa Baker lived down 5,600. He lived down 6,000. It wasn't 5,600. It was 6,000 that he lived on.
Okay.
And
Now,
how did you figure that out, Dad?
I was looking at, after we had talked, I went in and looked at the Google Earth
Oh, okay.
and looked to see if the Baker house is still there. Everything around it has changed. There's no longer, the Baker house is still there. The milk barn is still there.
I'm sorry. And they have plaques on the house. That's horrible.
Yeah, it's a historic house now. So if you go up to the front porch, there's a historic plaque on the front porch.
And where is it? About how far west is it?
If you go down 6,000, you go over the tracks, the first set of tracks, and there's a Varney's. There's an old building. I was thinking it was a warehouse, but it was a cannery, Varney's Cannery, and then like 2 or 3 houses down is his house. And like I say, it's got plaque. It's a historic site.
We took Tyler and Amy there and to the cemetery when they were up here a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Anyway, she took pictures and stuff and went over to the cemetery because there's a big tombstone thing, historic marker for the Bakers in the cemetery and everything. So she took a lot of pictures and stuff.
Now, was Grandpa active in the church at all?
No. Like I say, the only time I can remember him ever even going to church was for Jimmy's farewell.
Did he go to his homecoming?
And I don't remember the homecoming. So I don't, but I know he went to his farewell.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time I ever remember him going.
Do you know why he didn't go?
No, not really. Like I say, he would. Yeah, I don't know why he didn't. He just didn't go, other than maybe just the inconvenience of having to get dressed up and.
Well, grandma, your mom was active, right? Super
Yeah.
active.
Yeah.
And so, well, how did she come to be that way if her dad wasn't going to church? Do you know?
I don't know. She was just always active, as far as I.
Weren't all her friends active?
I don't know that all of them were. The kids that she grew up with, they were active. So that might have been why she was active.
Well, Roy was too.
Yeah, Roy was active. Roy was all his life.
The two younger girls weren't. Did they even go to church?
No, Nola and Berna never went, as far as I know. Leroy, he was always active, as far as I know. He ran the church farm in Salt Lake for years. I don't know how long, but that's when I would go out there and stay with Kenny out on the farm and help with the planting and farming and doing whatever needed to be done when I was growing up. What else? Yeah. Mom and Dad would go get Grandpa every Sunday and bring him to the house, and he would have Sunday dinner with them. If they didn't bring him to the house, they would always fix him a meal and take it to him so that he had a meal on Sunday. That's why Mom always told me, don't worry about him buying you some, lunch or whatever, because that, as long as he's doing that, we know he's getting another meal other than a thing of potatoes and bacon and eggs. Because he had an old cast iron frying pan that he cooked his bacon and eggs in every morning. Every morning he had bacon and eggs. And some days he would do up some fried potatoes. But he would get through cooking his bacon and eggs, He'd take the pan off the stove, put it down, and it had a
Warming up.
a warming oven. He would put the pan in the warming oven, and that's where it would sit till the next morning. He would get it out, put it up on the thing. He never emptied the grease out of it.
Never washed it.
Never washed it.
Well, that I can understand.
It said, well, if you wash it, it takes all the temper out of it, and it
Mhm.
ruins the pan. So he wouldn't wash it. When there was too much grease in, he would dump the grease in a tin can, a soup can.
Uh-huh.
And then when the soup can was full, he would mix the grease with lye and make his own soap.
Really?
Yeah. So when I would go stay with him, I'd always have to make sure I took a bar of soap with me. Because he always used the bacon grease and lye. That's how he washed his hands. But, but yeah, that was his mainstay: bacon and eggs and fried potatoes. So if we went to get him or take him somewhere, I'd say he always did his grocery shopping at the corner store. He had always paid his bills at Bon Marché, downstairs in the Bon Marché. He
Did he do his banking?
he didn't. He was raised during the Depression.
Okay.
I don't remember for sure, but I think he lost some money that he had in the bank.
Oh.
And so from that day on, he never trusted a bank.
During the crash 29.
Yeah, he would get his check. Like I say, would go to the Bon Marché. He would go down, he would cash his check there. Once in a while he would cash it at Richardson's, but most of the time he cashed it at the Bon Marché, paid all of his bills there, and he had in his dresser, in his bedroom, he had two wallets. He carried a wallet all the time, and he had two wallets in the dresser. So he'd cash his check, he'd go home, he'd figure out what he needed for groceries and bills. He'd keep that in his wallet, in his pocket. Everything else went in the wallet in the second drawer in the dresser. When that wallet got too full, then he would move that money into the second wallet, which was in the bottom drawer, and he would put it in that wallet. And when it got too full, he would go out to the garage. His garage had a dirt floor, and on the one side of the garage, there was a sheet of plywood laying on the ground that he parked his lawnmower and his garden tiller on. He would move those out of the way, stand the plywood up, and there was some marks on the base plate because it was a frame garage. So he would mark. There was some marks on the frame, the bottom 2x4, that showed him where his money was buried. And he would dig up he kept his money in coffee cans, and he buried them in the garage. So he would not go to the bank. When he died, Mom and Leroy and Verna and Nola got, the only ones that knew that money was there, of course, was Grandpa, me, and Mom and Dad. And they didn't know that I knew. They were really surprised that I knew that's, but I knew it was there. But anyway, they went and dug up the coffee cans, took them to our house, and sat down and counted it out. And I think they each got like $6,000
Wow.
each for each of them. So there was 24,000 plus in the cans. I don't know how many cans there were.
Wow.
Well, and that was in 1974, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, and Dad, too, you said he was raised during the Depression, but he wouldn't have been, right? He would have been about 30
Yeah.
at the time of the crash, not quite 30, right?
Yeah.
Your mom
Well,
was born in 25.
that's what I say. I think, I don't know for a fact, but I think that he lost some money because he couldn't get it. So he never trusted a bank. He wouldn't even. Mom took him to the bank a couple of times, and because he had the only reason why is because he had the box,
Oh, it's safety deposit box.
safety deposit box. So he had a safety deposit box. I don't know what he kept in it, but I think that's the only reason. But as far as dealing with money is concerned, he wouldn't deal with a bank, not even to cash his checks. You know, like I say, he always cashed them at the Bond or at Richardson's.
Which
Neil.
that happened a lot with a lot of people. They wouldn't
Okay.
trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I say, I don't know how many cans were buried. I knew where it was buried. I didn't know exactly where, but I knew where it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully they got it all when they dug it all up.
You sure they got it all?
But yeah, there was I'm pretty sure it was just over $6,000 each.
I mean, because if he did that for 40 years,
You know,
holy
and he didn't have that much money. I don't know what he made when he worked for the railroad, but after he retired, all he had was his retirement check. And I think, I don't know. I don't remember how much it was. I know it wasn't very much, but yeah, he was a pretty thrifty guy. Like I say,
yeah.
his clothes, just about everything he had patches on it. Mom would buy him new clothes.
Uh-huh.
Every Christmas she'd get him clothes, and he'd never wear them. He had the clothes that he liked, and that's what he wore. If he got dressed up for some reason, then he would put on one of the shirts, but he didn't like doing it. He didn't like getting dressed up. That wasn't him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some context, $24,000 in 1974 is equivalent to $144,000 today.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, when they divvied up the money, after they divvied it up, and Mom went to the credit union or to the bank, one or the other, to deposit the money after a few days. I don't know how long it was, but when she went in and started counting out the money, the teller at the bank hollered over to one of the other tellers and said, "Hey, I got some of that smelly money too."
Smells like dirt.
Yeah, it smelled like dirt and coffee. So
I heard
Nola
Grandma.
or Verna, one of them, had already been in and cashed theirs or deposited theirs.
Positive.
And I heard Grandma tell that story too. I mean, she told
Yeah.
me that before.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, but Grandpa would never use the elevator or an escalator.
Really?
When we went to the barn, there was
Mhm.
like 2 flights of stairs going down.
I thought it was up.
No, it was in the basement.
Really?
And he would always go on the stairs. I'd say, Grandpa, there's an escalator right over here. Let's go up. Nope. Don't trust him.
Well, he was a pretty healthy man, though. He was
Oh,
pretty.
yeah, he was. I mean, he died of a heart attack. He'd had 2 heart attacks. But even then, the one heart attack, the first one he had, he thought he just had indigestion. So he laid on the couch and beat on his chest with his fist.
Give himself CPR.
Basically gave himself CPR. And,
Which probably saved his life.
Yeah, it did. And
Wow.
but then when he had the other one, and I don't know how close they were together.
Well, I remember I think it was right after he turned 80 that he had the first one,
Yeah,
when we were living in Lane.
yeah. Well, he had the one, but he, like I say, he'd never take the escalator or the elevator. So we'd go down, he'd pay his bills and everything, and then we'd walk back up the stairs to go back up to Washington. And one day he was going up the stairs, and he got part way up, probably on the landing or whatever, and he bent over and started rubbing his calf. And I said something about your calf hurt, Grandpa. He says, calf, hell, it's old enough to be a cow by now. But he'd just rub it, and then we'd go on up.
They were still fairly. Him and Grandma Verna were still fairly young when Grandma Verna died. Did Grandpa ever date or find someone, or did he was always faithful to Grandma? Huh?
Yeah, never. Mom said before that when she died, he'd never dated anybody else, never seen anybody else. So.
Wow.
Did he ever talk about his wife, Grandma, with you? Did you ever hear him talk about her?
No, not really.
Just that it was the doctor's fault that she
Yeah.
died of blood poisoning. He didn't like doctors.
Well, so I know that, like, in reading Grandma's history, she kind of talked about how Grandpa, your dad, and her dad had a pretty close relationship.
Yeah.
Do you have any do you know about why that is, or do you have any memories about that at all?
No, just that they were close.
Did you tell him about your dad living with them before they got married and sleeping with Grandpa?
No, yeah, when Mom and my dad first met, he was in the CCCs, which is the Civil Conservation Corps.
Mhm.
And he was stationed in Hooper at the bird refuge.
And he was what, 19? 18, 19?
18, 19.
Something like that.
Mom was like 15.
Well, he's 5 years younger than Grandpa.
Yeah, 15 or 16 when they met. They
Got
met
married.
at the canal
Yeah.
in Roy, or in Clearfield.
Clearfield. Illinois. The top of 16 or 6,000.
Well, yeah, probably there. So they would be probably at M's. But anyway, they met at the canal. And at some point, Dad told one of his friends, another CC guy, that he was going to marry her. And they did. But
Obviously.
yeah, but they met at the canal, and
But he ended up living with him for some reason.
and then when he was on leave, well, I don't remember when or what it was, but anyway, he lived with Grandpa and Mom, or he stayed with them. I don't know that he lived with them, but he stayed with them periodically, and he would sleep in the bed with Grandpa, and so they were just really close. Dad would do anything for Grandpa, you know. As
Didn't he tell your mom that she'd be a damn fool if she didn't marry him or something?
yeah,
Like that?
yeah. Grandpa told Dad that he'd be a damn fool.
No,
Or
your mom.
told Mom that she would be a damn fool if she didn't marry him. So, yeah, we Jimmy got a car when he graduated from high school, and it was a '54 Chevy, and Dad overhauled the engine on it. I'd be out helping. Dad would be overhauling the engine. But anyway, when you overhaul an engine, you put it all back together, you put all new piston rings and valves and all the internal workings in the engine, and you can't just hook a battery up to it and start it, because everything's too tight. It won't turn over. So the only way to start it was to get it on a hill or push it with another car, put it in second gear, because everything was manual then. Put it in second gear, get it rolling, and then pop the clutch. You'd hold the clutch in and you'd pop the clutch, and that would kick it. There was a trick to doing it, but anyway, it would turn over the engine, and then you could keep it running. So when we finished overhauling Jimmy's car, Dad called Grandpa and had him come out, told him that he needed him to push. I don't know if you remember where Dad and Mom lived. You went around the corner on the 500, you go up the hill to where the community church was, or you turn the other way and go for like 4 or 5 blocks. There was a stop sign. So Dad told Grandpa that they would go to turn left. They told Grandpa, get me rolling good, and then back off so I can pop the clutch and start the car. Grandpa said, okay. So they got in, and Grandpa got in his car and gingerly pulled up to the back of Jimmy's car, so the bumpers were touching. It's when you had bumpers, real bumpers then. So the bumpers were touching, and Dad put his hand out the window and okay. And so Grandpa started him going down the thing, and then got him up to some speed, and then Dad started waving out the window for him to back off, but Grandpa just stayed right on his bumper and pushed him right through the stop sign. And they finally got it started.
They were up to 50 miles an hour or something.
Yeah,
like
they were clipping right along before Grandpa finally backed off so Dad could pop the clutch. Because if you pop the clutch, the car would just basically come to a quick stop. It wouldn't stop totally, but it would, would have damaged the bumpers and stuff. So he couldn't pop the clutch until Grandpa backed off a little. So, but
Now,
What
did
was-
Grandpa have a driver's license?
yeah, he had a driver's license. Like I say, he never drove anywhere.
Oh, okay.
He had the car in the garage.
I wonder how we got it with the kid read and run.
I know. That's what I was just going to ask.
Well, they would help when he would go take his driver's license test. They would help him.
Oh,
They would read the question for him and the possible answers or whatever, and he would just tell them, and they would mark it.
oh, okay. Okay.
So,
They can let you do that now.
Well,
Yeah.
they might do it though. For
yeah, they probably do for if you're
if
have
you have
some kind of defect or whatever that.
Oh,
they
well,
can't.
yeah.
But anyway, that's what they did for him because I took him one time to get his license.
well, kind of going back to just a question that just made me think about how was his relationship with all of his kids? I mean, did you observed him obviously with Grandma? I'm assuming you saw him interacting with his other kids. I mean, how was their family? Particularly given that Grandma had died, and so he raised those kids by himself, essentially, with help of her family.
Yeah.
They
He-
didn't really help with them though.
He got along with Leroy. They got along okay. I don't think he had any use for Nola or Verna.
Really?
They had nothing to do with him. I mean, they lived there. Well, Verna lived in Texas part of the time, but even after she moved back, they had nothing to do with Grandpa. So he would have nothing to do with them. I mean, I suppose he was civil with them, but him and Leroy lived in Salt Lake. So he didn't see Grandpa very often. He would come up and visit once in a while. When he'd come up and he'd visit with Mom and he'd go over.
I need to know. So maybe not me, but everybody needs to know. So who is Kenny? Who is Larry? Who is
Oh,
Lisa?
okay. Uncle Leroy's kids were Kenny, Leona, Kathy, Scott,
And yeah.
and Annette. So they were Leroy's kids. Verna had Shanna and Leslie. And Nola had Doug and Roger and Terry
Who died in infancy.
and the daughter
Tonalyn.
Tana
Lee.
No, Tonalyn.
Lynn.
Yeah, sorry.
But so other than just interaction, you didn't see him interacting a whole lot with the Verna and Nola.
No,
Okay.
I'd
But
say that.
Nola wasn't Nola raised by the Bakers?
No.
Verna was raised.
Verna was raised by the. Then who raised Nola?
Grandma.
Your mom.
No,
Yes.
yeah, my mom. Okay.
Okay. Grandma Pearl raised her little sister Nola.
There was only 2
That's
years.
why they're so close.
Yeah,
Okay. And Verna was raised by The
The
baker,
Bakers.
an aunt, or was
Until
I don't know who all. I just know that
it everybody?
Yeah. she was raised by the Bakers for a while. Then and I don't know how long. I know that
Didn't she live with Grandpa, your mom and dad, when she was a teenager?
Yeah.
Is that the
she lived with them off and on.
off and on?
Yeah, between marriages and I don't know when all, but and
So your mom basically took over the mother role for her siblings
yeah,
at a very, very young age,
yep,
and was always there to take care of her dad.
yeah. She was the only one that did anything for her, and Dad were the only ones that did anything for Grandpa Flitton. Like I say, they would they would go get him every Sunday, or if there was some reason why they couldn't go get him, they would, after we ate dinner, they would fix him a plate, take it to him. Once we got married and I started driving and we lived in the area, we would go get him on Sundays and bring him out to the house.
I remember there because I was what, 5, 6 when he died. Yeah, because I remember those. I remember having dinners
With him there.
with him there, and even great grandpa Baker. And I was an infant when he died.
Yeah. Great Grandpa Baker, we didn't have anything much to do with him.
He did meet Pam, though.
But he did meet you.
But I think he died before Scott was born,
Yeah,
didn't he?
I'm not sure what his death date was, but
I think so.
yeah.
And he died in '69.
You did meet him. He had old player piano, and used to sit at the piano when we would. Like I say, we didn't see him that often.
You're thinking Debbie. Debbie would sit at the piano.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Pam was too little.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
Pam, when Grandpa Baker, when we come home on leave, you were 5 months old, and we went over to introduce her because she was the first great grandchild too. I think Baker's, wasn't she? I'm pretty sure. Anyway, he couldn't see anymore. He was pretty blind, but he held you on his knee and cried, because he knew you were his posterity. And I just remember how sweet that was, that he just sat there and wept,
Did he say anything to me?
Probably, but I don't remember what.
I have a. Did you take a picture?
Probably.
Well, picture in my mind of sitting on his lap and him telling me that I was a pretty girl. That I was such a pretty girl.
Sure that wasn't Grandpa Flitton? Because you were only 5 months old and then we went back to Tucson, and he died a few months before Scott was born.
no, he actually died November 17th of 1969.
So you were just a baby, and we hadn't come up
Yeah.
yet. Okay, so I knew it was right around that time.
And by the way, whenever you do those, those games on Family Search that say, who do you look the most like of your ancestors?
Uh-huh.
He always is the one that comes up as the one I look the most alike.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why, but anyway.
I haven't.
You have the Baker build. I don't know that you look so much like him, but you have the Baker build.
Well, I'm sorry for the bakers.
Well, I don't know. I got the Baker blessing on my
Yeah.
big old
Yeah.
boots.
Well,
You
so go ahead.
so watching your grandpa Flitton and his work habits, that established, it seems like it established in you that same work ethic and working hard to provide for your family.
I think you learned that from your dad.
It might have had some to do with it, but most of it was from my dad. My dad was a hard worker.
Well, yeah, but that just, it seems like it just you know,
Yeah.
generation kind of thing.
And your
Yeah.
mom worked hard too.
Yeah, my mom and dad both were. They were both hard workers. The garage, my mom and dad's garage, dad built that, brick or cinder block by cinder block. Him and Leroy built that.
Didn't you build the back porch too?
Leroy did the back porch,
Mm.
put in the sliding glass door. And the sliding glass door used to be just a window
Oh,
into the back porch.
There was no back porch back there.
Well, I mean, into the backyard.
So it seems like your mom and your uncle Leroy were pretty close.
Yeah, she was close to all of her siblings. They mistreated her in some instances, but she, they could do no wrong. I mean, she forgave them for whatever they did, and so.
Well, what we have, it's almost been an hour now. So I'm wondering if there are other memories you'll want to talk about, and if so, do we want to do another part about your grandpa?
We can, because as we're talking, other memories come up, and but.
Well, why don't we plan on doing that? Let's do one more, and then we'll just kind of focus on like your best or most vivid memories of him, besides the ones that you've already talked about. Does that sound good?
It's okay.
All right. Well, thank you, and I'm going to stop the recording unless you want to say something more before I do.